FM26 is currently the 7th worst rated game in Steam history. Is that fair? No. But a quote comes to mind, actually two. It takes a lifetime to build a good reputation, but you can lose it in a minute, which is Will Rogers. Warren Buffett has also said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. I think how Sports Interactive communicates is awful. But before we get to that, this may come across as a bit of a rant. I'm going to try my best to continue to be fair and balanced as I have been with my other recent videos. I put that at the beginning because there's lots of new people that watch my videos than used to. And I will also say I am not calling for anyone at Sports Interactive to be fired, or they should resign, or that we should get rid of Miles, or whatever. And I'll explain why. But that doesn't hide the fact that this game launch has been a mess. People are rightfully upset about it, but I think a chunk of it has to do with how Sports Interactive communicates, or doesn't, with their player base and what they could have done differently. Now, I did a stream yesterday. You can see I've actually gone to take a chunk of that stream where part of what I'm about to tell you has come from, but I've tried to polish it up a little bit and put it out just so we can talk about this one topic. And I don't want to just throw criticism at Sports Interactive. I want to kind of go down the various paths they could have taken that maybe would have made this situation slightly better. It clearly wouldn't have fixed all of the game's problems, but I think it would have helped. So let's go back to that Warren Buffett quote, because I think it's relevant to some of the stuff that Miles has said in interviews, particularly in the one with Jack or Work the Space, which at the time I thought was one of the best pieces of FM content we'd had in a long time, and that's what I said. And this is a paraphrase, but Miles essentially said, "We've been making this game for 30 years. I would hope people would trust us that we'll get it right." And I think that is the beginning of the overarching mistake here. I think SI and Sega, and we will talk about Sega here in a little bit, have grossly overestimated the amount of grace that's left in the grace bucket from their player base. And I think that grace bucket is a lot lower because of how FM25 went down. And I know there are some people that say they did the right thing with FM25, they shouldn't have put out a completely broken game. I agree, and I've gotten tons of comments saying, gosh, how bad must it have been that this in FM26 is what we're getting? What was FM25 like? But I firmly believe taking pre-orders on a game that you knew was not fun and broken on FM25, going radio silent, and then canceling the game very late in the cycle, yes, there are Sega issues with earnings reports and releases, and they couldn't say anything, and that's why the news came out at 2 a.m. UK time and all that. I understand that. But my point is, that miss of a game burned through a lot of the grace in that bucket from the community. And I think SI knew that. And Miles, again, because Miles has kind of been the guy out talking to some of the FM content creators, has said they understand that if they don't get FM26 right, if it flops, they may not get a chance to make FM27. So they knew we had a bad game, we canceled that game, we have got to hit it out of the park with FM26. But here we are, where Tuesday's full release of the game was the beta patch from Friday, and that's it. And we just removed the watermark. And that patch was broken and buggy and things weren't working. That's what they went to market with. They went to their consumers and said, full release, look at all our shiny marketing images and our videos that are super polished with a broken game. You had Sega putting out a tweet because they had problems with physical copies of the game and the CD keys being able to be activated, which, to be fair, may not be SI's fault at all. And then, of course, they put out the first real patch, which should have come on launch day on Wednesday, and that patch is a lot better. It's not nearly to the point it should be for a full release game, but it is a lot better. But it's only for Steam users that opt in to a beta pathway, so it doesn't help anybody else that got it from Epic or on Xbox or PlayStation or any of that. Hello, my friends, popping in here real quick. If you are in the middle of this video and still enjoying it, a like, comment, subscribe, and even a hype, which is a thing you could do on your mobile phone, really do help. Thanks. So how does this tie into how SI communicate? At the end of the day, it comes across to me that SI don't communicate. The current situation they find themselves in is based on the build up to FM26. And their strategy appears to me to be, let's put out highly polished videos. Let's show off the new match engine and the stadiums and the Premier League branding. It's exclusively been about the Premier League, no other licensed league. Let's show new camera angles and goals and match engine, match engine, match engine. And the new UI look was heavily edited videos where they replaced text, for example, on one of the scouting screens with After Effects or whatever, to make it look a lot more polished. They never showed off what the game actually looked like with UI and transitions because they knew it was bad. Another part of their strategy was to give early access to some content creators and do alpha access, and then those content creators, I think naturally as humans, went, ooh, shiny new thing. Let's put out a video about the shiny new thing. And then as they got deeper into it, they went, wait a minute, but it was too late. And SI know how to make a good game. I want to make that very clear. FM24 is widely considered to be one of the best Football Manager games ever. Some people say I'm still on Championship Manager 03. You've got to admit you're in the minority there. FM24 did have flaws, but in comparison to FM 16 through 23, highly considered to be one of the best games ever. So they know what a good game looks like, and they knew what they were about to deliver. And I know they're feeling pressure. I don't know anybody there, but I'm not an idiot. Like, clearly, the developers and the teams there are feeling pressure, and they were scrambling to get the game out. But that's where I think the communications and marketing strategy has hurt more than it's helped. And I'm also aware they will have made a business decision, or maybe Sega has, to say, just ship it and fix it later. We have to get some revenue. And that is a valid business decision to take. I don't agree with it, but it's a valid one to say, we understand we're probably going to get a lot of refunds, but there's going to be lots of people that will buy the game and they'll just grit their teeth and bear it until we fix it. Okay, so we're 6.5 minutes into the video. What could SI have done differently? I want to offer some potential solutions. The first solution is honesty. Even if you go down the path of, we're going to put out our marketing videos, they're going to be shiny and new, and we know we're putting out a bad game. When you get into a crisis, and I personally think being the 7th worst rated game in Steam history is a crisis, to continue to put your marketing posts and blog posts and X/Twitter messages or whatever on auto post and just let them ride is a mistake. It's like putting your head in the sand as an ostrich. I think they would garner some of that goodwill back. We're going to refill a little bit of that grace bucket if they came out and said, we hear you, we're working on it, and I think this is what piece that's missing. Here is our roadmap to how we're going to fix it. They are human. There's only so many people that work at SI, and maybe they can't put out a roadmap because they don't know how long it's going to take to fix. But I think it would help them if they came out and said, every Tuesday is patch day, and we are going to have a patch day until at least the end of the year until we get this game into a good state. It's called setting expectations with your audience and admitting you know that it's flawed. And in doing so, you might also tone down some of the marketing, which again, maybe Sega controls that, I don't know. Now that solution is assuming you did nothing leading up to the game. That's just taking our current situation where you put out a beta, it's horribly buggy, it crashes on Mac, it crashes on PC, you get the most bug reports you've ever got. I think it was almost 14,000, and coming out and saying, we get it, there's lots of problems, we're working on it, here's what we're gonna do to get it right. Instead, it seems, again, like they've relied on, oh, we've been doing this for 30 years. Warren Buffett quote, you've been doing it for 20 years. It takes not one, but 2 bad releases. One of them, obviously, FM25 wasn't actually a release, but you've burned through that goodwill with your community. And also, I want to point out, some people have said, well, when they transitioned to 3D graphics and the new 3D engine, everybody hated that. And I think it was like FM09 or whatever it was like the worst rated game they'd ever had. The problem with that argument for me is that if they're going to claim they have 20 million players and it's grown enormously since, say, 2020, a large chunk of those players have no idea what you're talking about. It's almost like you're only as good as your last game. Whether that's fair or not, that's reality. They can't rely, and apparently they're not marketing towards the people that have been around since Championship Manager 03. That new audience is going, what is going on? But let's rewind even further. What else could they have done? Because again, we stick with the premise that SI know what a good game looks like. They're not sitting there with the game going, why? Wow, I'm really surprised that everyone's so mad about this. They knew what was coming. So let's go back to October 20th, where they say, a landmark week. As promised, we're delighted to confirm that the FM26 Advanced Access Beta arrives Thursday, 23rd October. your initial step into this new era. At face value, you go fair. Great, you've announced the beta. Good stuff. And then they had Spencer Owen and Jared Bowen do a pre-recorded playthrough of really the alpha. And if you go back and watch that now, there were video edit cuts anytime Spencer went to something that either broke or was showing off something that they weren't ready to show off. All of a sudden the camera goes 90 degrees to his side and nothing is on the screen. So in doing so, they've set expectations that this is a normal beta that's coming. We've got a game, we're happy to present it to you, we're showing it off, everything's great. And then what happens? A dud lands in your Steam library and you go, what happened? Expectations, reality. That part in between is pain. So what could they have done differently? Let's take that same announcement on October 20th, and let's say they're only gonna do a 2-week beta, or beta for my European friends. And they could even say, we're still gonna have Spencer and Jared show this off, we're excited for them to show this off to you, but my friends, we're struggling with this game. We're committed to getting it right. It's gonna take a while, and we're working very hard on it. We need your feedback. We need your bug reports. We need your help in making this the best Football Manager ever. And that's not even to say I think they could have done, let's say, a 4-week beta, maybe release the game 2 weeks later to further emphasize we need an extra 2 weeks than we do normally to really polish this thing up and make it great. In other words, they should have been honest. And people in the live stream have also said, and said in the comments on my videos, pretty much every major game that comes out is full of bugs. That doesn't make it okay. We as consumers shouldn't be asked to accept games that come out as full release, thanks for your money, that are full of holes, stripped out features, and things are broken. I don't think that's too high of a bar of demanding excellence from companies that accept our hard-earned dollars. And you could make the argument that by being honest about the state that the game was in, they would have impacted their sales. Let's say all of this is pushed out by Sega and they're in control of everything. What is better? The current situation where they're the 7th worst rated game on Steam, which again, I don't think is fair, but that's just reality because people are real mad, with tons of bug reports, tons of negative press, and tons of unhappy players that are saying, I'm going to refund the game and I'm going to go back to FM24 and download a database update for the current season, and we'll see if I look at FM27. Or we might not get as many sales, but wow, they're being honest. They need my help. My expectation is set correctly as a consumer, and I can appreciate where they're at, and it's been a challenge. Now, maybe some accountant or finance professional has done the math as to, well, how many refunds are we going to get, and how much is the negative impact of negative Steam reviews and PlayStation reviews and Xbox reviews going to do to us short-term and long-term. But I just think asking for honesty is not too high of a bar. We shouldn't accept corporations that lie to our faces and then act surprised when people are unhappy. I do want to try and cut something off of the past here before you leave a lot of comments. It sounds like I'm changing my tone about FM26. I'm really not. I was personally very disappointed that Tuesday's patch was removing the beta watermark and the report bugs option. I thought no company would be as crazy as to say, oh yeah, by the way, if you had the game last week on Friday as a beta, that's what we're going to give you officially because we don't have enough time to fix all the things. And they do deserve some credit that the patch they put out does get us at least on the right path to getting to a good game. But I said several times in comments that I replied to on other videos that we kind of have to wait till Tuesday to see what it brings. So I was pretty stunned myself that they went, yep, we just have to release what we have to release. And I personally don't believe that it being the 7th worst rated game in Steam history is anywhere near accurate nor fair. And it won't stay there. In case you're wondering how it got to be that bad, it's because there are currently 9,707 negative reviews and only 2,400 that are positive. So it's got a 21.82% Steam DB rating. When you go to Steam, it says reviews, mostly negative. In contrast, FM24 only had about 27,000 reviews and only 2,300 of them were negative. Going back to FM26, so you might say, well, that's not fair. That's just people that are review bombing and being negative. I could buy that to a point. And I do think that the positive reviews, as the game gets better, will start to increase, and maybe it doesn't stay at that 7th worst in Steam history rating. But you can't ignore that you're getting more than 3 times as many negative reviews as your last game that was for 2 years got. It's an indication that something is very wrong. And for those that thought this game has been console-ified, the console players hate it too. It's a 1.82 with 951 ratings, which obviously isn't a lot, but I'm guessing leaving a review on the PlayStation Store might not be as easy. I don't know. I don't have one. And I told you that's what I was worried about in Beautiful But Broken. That as a game developer, you have to know, even if it's unfair, that if you put out a dud of a game with all this shiny marketing because you've set expectations here, that people are going to be negative because welcome to the internet. And so if you read some of those negative reviews, say on Steam, some of it has positive things to say, but Steam only gives you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And I don't think it's unfair to say it's a thumbs down right now. So I think if they had been more honest and set better expectations, that would have alleviated some of that. So I'm curious what you think, and I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Do you think SI or Sega or both could have done something, anything to lessen the blow or to maybe set better expectations about FM26? Do you think it's better to have done what they've done and maybe in 2 weeks or 4 weeks we've got a better game and the reviews will come back? And do you think the sacrifice in goodwill with the community is worth it? As always, I ask that you keep it civil in the comments. If you've enjoyed this and want to see more like it, I'm trying to rebuild my channel, so a like, a comment, a subscribe, all really, really do help. If you want to financially support me, you can become a YouTube member or join me on patreon.com/grayhairgaming. And if you're going to do that, or if you're interested in doing that, I'd like to know what you'd want to see as special member benefits. Because right now, it's essentially like a tip jar to say, hey, I really appreciated you doing that. You can also leave super chats during streams or super thanks, I think, which is like when you leave a comment on the video. But that's enough self-promotion for today. I will be getting to a main save soon. I've had people ask me, is it safe to start a long-term save? And the answer to that question is, I don't know. As a content creator, I need to get going with a main save, so I'll have more on that soon. But there may be things about the game that are horribly broken for you still. Let's say you really love the data hub and you can't really use it right now. That you might say, I want to hold off. Maybe I'll go have some fun in some random league and not take it too seriously, but I kind of want to sink my teeth into something once it's set up really well. But again, I appreciate you watching. It's been kind of crazy the last week and a half with all the people coming to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for coming in. And for the folks that have been here a while, thanks as well. You know who you are. We'll see you soon.